Thank you for waiting, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining Vision Network by Female Governors and Mayors, commonly known as VisionNet. Now, let's begin the 5th Vision Network. Now, moving on to Ambassador of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, Her Excellency Ms. Lina Annab. The floor is yours. Hello everyone, my name is Lina Annab, the Ambassador of Jordan, and I came here in 2019 and I'm going to speak in English. Right now I'm learning Japanese. Japanese is beautiful language and I love it. Someday I wish I can give speech in Japanese. Thank you very much for inviting me today.
Your Excellency, Governor KOIKE Yuriko, Your Excellency, Governor of Yamagata Yoshimura Mieko, esteemed mayors and ambassadors, Chairman Kobayashi. Where is Chairman Kobayashi? Well, I hope Chairman Kobayashi said it was his final event for this week, but I hope it's not his last event with women. Dear friends, it is an immense honor and privilege to stand before you today at the 5th Vision Network by Female Governors and Mayors Conference. This is my 3rd year to participate in this assembly of remarkable and outstanding women. I would like to express my deep gratitude for the organizers, and in particular to the Tokyo Metropolitan Governor and to Governor Yoko KAMIKAWA, a formidable leader and an exemplary role model, for hosting this event. Governor KOIKE's tireless efforts to champion women's rights, both domestically and on the global stage, deserve our utmost respect and appreciation. We are indeed fortunate to have such a dedicated advocate in you, Governor KOIKE. I also wish to acknowledge the exceptional political and civil leaders present today and my fellow ambassadors, who have demonstrated unwavering commitment to create more inclusive societies that advance women's rights within their own countries and worldwide, and ultimately propelling us closer to achieving gender equality. Today's conference brings together like-minded women and men whose determination and political will are essential drivers to the change needed to empower women. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government, under Governor KOIKE's leadership, stands as a shining example of this commitment. Deliberate policy and regulatory interventions show that TMG now has 17% of women in managerial positions, surpassing the national average of 13%. Moreover, paternity leave among male employees at TMG stands at 43%, exceeding both the national, public, and private sector rates. TMG's recent establishment of Encouragement for Working Women Division is yet another important step towards promoting women's empowerment and gender equality. Another example of a political will to advance women's political role in Japan is the recent appointment by Prime Minister KISHIDA of 5 women cabinet ministers, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Yoko KAMIKAWA. Dear friends, the significance of our gathering today lies in the inspiring stories we share that speak to the challenges and triumphs we've encountered on our respective journeys. These narratives, I hope, will serve in encouraging more women, young and old, to come forward and assert their role as an equal partner in the political process. Today, more than ever, it is important that we stand united in the face of increased bullying and harassment, targeting women in the public sphere with the intention of discouraging them from seeking public office or continuing a political career. Speaking of stories, allow me to share a glimpse of my own story. I am Lina Annab. I am not the wife of the ambassador of Jordan in Japan, but the ambassador herself. I'm sure my fellow women ambassadors can relate to the frequent assumptions made about our roles. Although seemingly trivial, these assumptions highlight the persistent cultural biases surrounding gender roles, especially in high-ranking positions. And by the way, I must say, spouses of ambassadors and diplomats deserve to be recognized and appreciated for the magnificent diplomatic work that they do in their own right. As an Arab Muslim woman, I often find myself challenging stereotypes that stubbornly fuel misconceptions. I still recall my first job interview 30 years ago at a multinational company, when the interviewer asked me in passing, he asked me to assess my ability to succeed given my nationality, gender, and religion. I got the job, but I also answered the question the way I would like to answer it. While I consider myself lucky for not encountering the profound challenges that many girls and women face, I, like many women, understand what it means to be underestimated or simply overlooked because I am a woman. I grew up in a house filled with love and strong women. My mother, a divorced woman who took on the responsibility of raising me and my three sisters at the young age of 36, served and still serves at 88 years old as my most powerful role model. During the 1970s, the odds were stacked against divorced women in countless and vicious ways. Witnessing my mother's struggle for her most basic right to care for her daughters shaped my worldview regarding women's inalienable rights to justice, equality, dignity, and respect. In those days, the term patriarchy was foreign to me. But through my mother's journey, I experienced its ugly manifestations in various forms: economic, social, legal, and religious. Each form of patriarchy had its own entrenched set of vested interests, conspiring to uphold a status quo that excluded women and perpetuated a male-dominated culture. My upbringing solidified the importance of challenging mindset and that rationalized gender inequality as a cultural norm. Women's issues became deeply personal for me, and I recognized the need to expose these so-called cultural norms for what they really are: a set of opportunistic social constructs that are rooted in unequal power relations. Regrettably, even today, these norms persist, limiting women's ambitions and aspirations. Around the world, women's leadership remains questioned and a contested area. A recent study by the UNDP reveals that 90% of people around the world still feel some resistance and prejudice against women in leadership positions. And on average, women continue to be steered towards jobs with lower barriers to entry that often come with less stability and lower wages, intensifying a cycle of poverty in their later years. In my country, Jordan, the struggle for women's rights mirrored similar movements worldwide. Political parties played a major role in raising awareness among women of their rights. With that awareness came a growing interest among women to become more involved in politics. Given Jordan's geopolitical context, women's movements in the past century have been shaped by both politics and socio-economic factors. The British Mandate over Jordan from 1921 to 1946, the Arab-Israeli Wars of 1948 and 1967, and the subsequent Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory, along with the influx of Palestinian refugees into Jordan, all contributed to the formation of women-led resistance movements advocating for equality, justice, freedom, and independence from foreign powers. The 1970s were a turning point for women in Jordan. They witnessed an increased international focus on women's rights. The announcement of the first World Conference on the Status of Women by the United Nations in Mexico City in 1975 marked a significant milestone for global women's movement and had a profound impact in Jordan. In fact, it was thanks to this conference and the anticipated pressure from its outcomes that the government of Jordan introduced amendments to the election laws in 1974, granting women the right to vote and run for office. This momentous achievement came after 53 years of struggle by pioneering and visionary women who relentlessly fought for this right. Subsequently, the United Nations organized other women's conferences that set the stage for global collaboration with multinational institutions in the fight for women's rights. These events were pivotal in generating positive momentum for feminists over the last 5 decades, both on global and local scales. Fast forward to 2023. Jordan has made significant strides in empowering women thanks to the tireless efforts of women activists and targeted government initiatives. Legal frameworks have been amended, and female education has been vigorously promoted. Today, women constitute 24% of cabinet ministers and approximately 15% of parliamentary members. Between 2017 and 2020, the judiciary witnessed 40% in number of women judges. But Jordan and the world are still far from patting ourselves on the back. Globally, women today hold just 27% of seats in parliament and 36% in local government. Legal frameworks are still lagging, and despite progress, 54% of countries still lack laws in key areas of gender equality. In education, women in Jordan outnumber men in university enrollment. A notable example is the highly competitive and empowering field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, what is known as STEM. In Jordan, nearly half of the undergraduates in STEM are women, and almost 60% of master's and doctorate degrees in STEM fields are awarded to women. Yet, many of these highly educated women face an environment that provides them with a strong university education but offers limited opportunities to forge a career path. Similar to many countries in the world, institutional barriers in Jordan, including an unequal division of unpaid care and domestic responsibilities, and an undersupply of job opportunities in technology, have disrupted and are disrupting the university-to-work transition for many young women in STEM, and ultimately are robbing them of the opportunity of participating in and in sitting at the table where new technologies are being defined and where digital transformation is being center-staged. Dear friends, it is crucial to recognize and celebrate the remarkable strides made by women in the relentless pursuit of equal rights. Nevertheless, we must also acknowledge the persistent challenge that continue to obstruct progress towards full gender parity worldwide. The journey towards gender equality has become increasingly intricate and elusive, compounded by global crises such as conflicts and wars, food insecurity, climate change, displacement, and other mounting pressures. Today, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals provide us with a comprehensive framework for achieving gender equality. These goals offer a clear roadmap for addressing the diverse challenges women still face, encompassing issues from gender-based violence to economic disparities. Last September, during the United Nations General Assembly in New York, the world assessed the progress made towards achieving the SDGs, revealing the sobering reality that the majority of these goals are falling short of their 2030 targets. While certain areas have made progress, an alarming number of targets are advancing at an insufficient pace or even regressing. As we reach the midpoint of the 2030 Agenda implementation, much like a century ago when women and men fought for voting and political rights, there is an urgent call today for collective action to achieve these goals. International cooperation must be intensified, particularly for the most disadvantaged and vulnerable communities, including women. These communities require support to recover from the pandemic, ongoing conflicts, inflation, the cost of living crisis, and to enhance their resilience against future shocks and climate-related risks. One group that seems to be overlooked in the SDGs debate is the refugees and the forcibly displaced people, whose numbers are steadily increasing. Currently, there are 35 million refugees in the world, with 10% of them residing in Jordan, making Jordan one of the highest refugee per capita countries in the world. Half of these refugees are women and children, with women heading most of the refugee households. The refugees depend on the international community for their survival, and multiple UN agencies provide vital services to meet their needs. Unfortunately, many of these agencies are facing severe funding shortfalls due to lack of support from international community, forcing them to reduce support to refugees and their host communities. In Jordan, these cuts have thrown the lives of hundreds of thousands of refugees into uncertainty and despair. Here, I must express Jordan's gratitude to Japan for its consistent support to refugees in Jordan and worldwide. I also wish to acknowledge the remarkable work of the late Mrs. Sadako Ogata, the distinguished Japanese diplomat who served as the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Her leadership and empathy shattered stereotypes about women leaders and transformed the way the world approaches and addresses refugee and humanitarian crises. In closing, we must not forget that the struggle for women's rights and gender equality is not the responsibility of the select few. It is the responsibility of all. It truly takes a village, a global village, to create a peaceful world where women and men can live free from discrimination and realize their full potential. Let us commit to follow in the footsteps of those who came before us and complete the noble endeavor they started for the benefit of all human mankind. Let us remember that women's rights are human rights, and that equality in all its forms is an expression of a society at peace with itself. The late Ichikawa Fusae, the great Japanese leader of the women's suffrage movement, expressed it best when she said, "No equality without peace, no peace without equality. Heiwa nakushite byodo naku, byodo nakushite heiwa nashi." Thank you. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you very much for the wonderful speech. Thank you very much. Lina Annab.
That was Her Excellency Lina Annab.